All right, everybody, here we go. We are doing homework for lesson 1 and 2 of module 13. They were kind of a review from earlier this year, so we did them a little bit quickly. So if you have questions, make sure you ask next time we have class. We're starting here on P121. A welder measures the thickness of a piece of steel. The measuring device shows the thickness of the millimeters. I should probably share my screen with you so that you can see this as well, even though you hopefully have it in front of you. Let's do this. All right, here we go. Now we're ready. So you can see on the tool, can you read that number? 5 and 899 thousandths millimeter. So they're measuring the thickness in millimeters of a piece of steel. So in this chart, when we write this number, we have 5 ones. I need a different pen. 5 ones, 8 tenths, 9 hundredths, and 9 thousandths. It says, how does the value of the 9 in the thousandths place compare with the value of the 9 in the hundredths place? So we talked about that. They have different values in different places. How do they compare? So let's think about greater than, less than, and think about those words we said in class. If we move from one place to the other, how does the 9 in the thousandths place compare to the hundredths place? So it is in the thousandths place, the 9 thousandths is what? The 9 hundredths. Oh, I'm going to write that this way. The 9 thousandths is what? It moved one place, so it is 1/10 of. We talked about that in class. Moving one place, it's 1/10 of the 9 hundredths. During a record-setting rainfall, say this number, 57 thousandths of an inch of rain fell every minute for 35 minutes. How much rain fell in 10 minutes? So we have this value every minute. Now, in 10 minutes, so 10 times as much. Think about what would happen with our 57 thousandths. 10 times, we're going to move which way? To the left. So we're going to have 0 and 57 hundredths of an inch there. 10 same size marbles have a mass of, read that number, 45 and 6/10 grams. What is the mass of one marble? These are 10 marbles. If I have 1/10, 45 and 6/10, if it's 1/10 of this amount, which way are we moving? Our digits are going to shift to the right. So we would have 4 and 56 grams. All right. A number that is 10 times as much. If it's 10 times as much, we are moving, our digits are moving to the left, our decimal moves over to the right. Our number should get bigger, or it is greater if it's 10 times as much. And 28 and 4/10, I almost said 28.4, 28 and 4/10, 10 times that would be a whole 284. Now our decimal is invisible. We don't need it. A number that is 1/10 of, say this number, 64 and 97 hundredths, 1/10 of that. Our decimal is moving. We should have a number that is less. Our decimal moves. We shift over 6 and 497 thousandths. Here we have a chart to look at. An Atlas beetle is about, can you read this number? 15 hundredths of a meter long. How does the length of the Atlas beetle compare to the length of the leaf-cutting beetle or the leaf-cutting bee? Look at it. How does its length compare? The Atlas beetle, how does that compare to the leaf-cutting bee? So we have 1500ths and we have 15,000ths. How does the Atlas beetle compare to the leaf-cutting bee? The Atlas beetle is 10 times as long as the leaf-cutting bee. 10 times is what we would have here. As long. The leaf-cutting beetle is 1/10 of the Atlas beetle's length. So let's see what happens in the test prep. In which number does the digit 9 have a value that is 1/10 of the value of the digit 9 in this number? Can you say it? 8 and 97 thousandths. Which number does the 9 have a value of 1/10? So which way does it need to move to be 1/10? Would it move to the left or to the right? 1/10 of, it would move to the right. So we want to find a 9 in the thousandth place, and that would be letter C. In which number does the digit 3 have a value that is 10 times as much as the value of the digit 3 in this number? Can you say it? 28 and 37 thousandths. We're looking at the digit 3, and we want a number that is 10 times as much. How will it move? That 3 should move over from the hundredths place to the tenths place. And as I look, that would be letter A. A toy spaniel weighs, say that number, 10 and 999 thousandths pounds. A Great Dane weighs 10 times as much as the toy spaniel. How much does the Great Dane weigh? 10 times as much. Which way do our digits move? Our digits are going to move to the left. Our decimal will move over to the right. A Great Dane is obviously going to weigh more, so that does make sense that the Great Dane would weigh 109 and 99 pounds. A sign at the aquarium says an exhibit contains 3,107 gallons of water. How many gallons of water are in an exhibit with 1/10 of that amount? I want to write this number here. Where is the decimal in that number? I took out the comma. Where is the decimal? The invisible decimal is at the end of the whole number. So our decimal is here after the 7. If we need 1/10 of this amount, how will our decimal move? From here, 1/10 of, our number should become less. So we are going to have 310 and 7/10 gallons. Select all the numbers that are 10 times as much as, what is that number? 1400ths or 1/10 of 1400ths. Let's start with 10 times as much. If it's 10 times 1400ths, it should be, we could really, I wrote that 0, but I don't need it, 1 and 4/10. If it's 1/10 of that number, and ignore that period at the end of the sentence, if it's 1/10 of, it should become 14 thousandths. So as I look, I have letter A, that's 1 and 4/10, 10 times as much. I have letter B, 1/10 of 14 thousandths. And that would be it. Spiral review. If I'm subtracting fractions, I need a common denominator. This would become 8/12 minus 6/12, and that would be 2/12. Can you simplify? You can. We're going to simplify that. They're even numbers that can both be divided by 2. I put a comma. They are equivalent, right? Find the product. 4/5 times 3. It's a whole number. Put a 1 under it. Multiply across. We get 12/5, which we would rename is equal to 2 2/5. That was our first lesson. We also did lesson 2 of module 13, reading and writing decimals to thousandths. So if you look, an architect's digital tool shows 2 decimal readings. We're looking over at that image, and we're going to write the numbers in word form. Now, we talked about short word form. So here they are. The first one, I see 349 thousandths. So we're going to write out the word thousandths. That would be short word form. I could have put 0 and, but I'll just leave it as that. The next one, we have 2 and 327 thousandths. So we're doing short word form right now. In expanded form, when I have numbers after the decimal, we have a 3 in that space where we have tenths. So we say 3 times 1/10 plus. We have the next digit of 4, and that is in the hundredths place. And our last digit is a 9. We multiply that by the thousandths because it's in the thousandths place, and that would equal our 349 thousandths. For 2 and 327 thousandths, we have 2. That's in the ones place, so I'm going to do 2 times 1 plus 3 times 1/10 plus 2 times 1/100th plus 7, oops, a big 7, times 1/1000th. So we're showing each digit multiplied by its place on the place value chart. The width of an architect's drawing is, say that number. You could have said 0 and 985 thousandths meters or 985 thousandths meter. In expanded form, 9 is in the tenths place, 9 times 1/10 plus 8 is in the hundredths place, 8 times 1/100th plus 5 in the thousandths place, so 5 times 1,000. What number is 1/100th of the value? What is that number? 2 and 6/10. So we've been talking about 1/10 of. When it's 1/10 of, we move how many places? 1 place. So now we have 1/100th. There are 2 zeros. We're going to move 2 places. And again, if it's 1/10 of, my numbers are all going to shift to the right 2 places. So I'm going to move my decimal. I'm going to need a 0 and a 2 and then the 6. So I always like to put a 0 in front to keep from losing my decimal. But if you like, you could look at that 2 and 6/10, and if it has to move 2 places, start at your decimal and jump back 1, 2. There's where your decimal would go. You've got to fill in that space for the tenths right next to the decimal. And then again, you could put that 0 to keep it from rolling away. Ooh, this number in word form. Good thing we can do short word form. Look at all the lines they gave us. Read this number. 351,528 and 94 thousandths. So we can do 351. Be careful. Don't stick your tongue out at me yet. 351,528 and 94. Stick your tongue out. Thousandths. And we talked about in class, this 0, we don't say it, we don't have to write it there. We're not saying 0 thousandths. Expanded form. Say that number before I do. 4,703 and 601 thousandths. Expanded form. Look at each place. I have a 4, and that's in the thousand place. 4 times 1,000 plus 7 times its place, 100, plus we have a 0 times 10. That's the tens place. We have a 3, and that's in the ones place. Our 6 is in the tenths place. We have another 0 in the hundredths place, and we have a 1 in the thousandths place. There it is in expanded form. Okay, test prep. The distance around a human hair is about 9 thousandths of a millimeter. Which number shows the standard form of 9 thousandths? Standard form, we just use the numbers, the digits, right? 9 thousandths. I have 9 hundredths. I have 9. I have 9,000. Be careful. It is letter A. If I have this chart, read this number. 14 and 97 thousandths. There's 110 shown here. 4 ones, that would equal 4. 0 tenths. In our expanded form, that would be 0 times 1/10, which would equal 0. 9 hundredths. 9 times 1/100th would be, I should have made that like a 0. 9 hundredths. And then 7 times 1,000th would be 7 thousandths. Okay, let's do the opposite. How do we get it back to standard form? If I see 8 times 1, that tells me that equals 8. Now, that is in the ones place, so I know my decimal has to come next. Now, instead of 1/10 as a fraction, it's being shown as a decimal. 5 times 1/10, we know what that is. That's 5 tenths. 0 times 1/100th would be 0. And 6 times 1,000th will be 6 thousandths. So our number in standard form is 8 and 506 thousandths. Then I'm going to read this number so that I can write it in standard form. 80,000, 9, and 13 thousandths. Here's my decimal. There's my and. So I need to think 80,000, 9, 80,000, 9, and 13 thousandths. For thousandths, I need tenths, hundredths, thousandths. 13 thousandths, I'll put a 0 there. So our number should look like this: 80,000, 9, and 13 thousandths. That was a whopper. Spiral review. Write the expression using equivalent fractions with a common denominator. We have a denominator of 5 and 10. I can use 10. So I have 2 and 4 tenths plus 3 and 2 tenths. I can just add my fractions and get 5 and 6 tenths. Can you simplify? Even numbers would equal 5 and 3/5. It took Matt 25 minutes to read a science article. It took him 1 2/3 times as long to read the assigned chapters in a history book. How long did it take Matt to read the history chapters? 1 2/3 times as long. So we have 25 minutes times 1 2/3. Now, I'm going to use the Columbia C or rename it as an improper fraction. 25 over 1 times 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5/3, which would give me, oh, I better do this, 125/3. When I rename that, it's improper. I do 125 divided by 3. That's what we have here. 3 goes into 12 4 times. Subtract, bring down. 3 goes into 5 1 time. Subtract. We have 2 left over. So it's going to be 41 2/3 times to read that those history chapters, 41 2/3 minutes. All right. For your question at the end of this video, would you rather read a science article or the history book? Those chapters assigned. So answer science or history. And I will see you next time. Ooh, if I can go. Oh, I will get out of here in a minute.